Let's go to the next stop. We are headed to Tyrone, Georgia. He said, yeah, it started crying. Started crying. Okay, we getting ready to go right back out. She started fucking crying. These motherfuckers getting on my nerve with this shit. Fitz trying to hustle them. Let me tell these bitches a piece of my mind. So if I'm with dispatch, you know what's up. Was also on the phone explained to her. So quit fucking with us. There you go, right there. You tucked in, boy. What building is that? Jump out there. That is huge. OTS, QTS or something. This shit is huge. Alright, now we go to Joe Cohen Parkway. Go.
Falling in love, it was easy at the start. I thought I had it in my hand. Something went wrong Somewhere we lost a part. It was more than we could stand. Yeah, it was too late when I realized.
Like we are in Tyrone, Georgia. Tyrone. See Joseph. 135. Y'all created the work orders, though. It'll be on. I did my job.
Joe PA.
Hey, this is Doug Monroe with Pulse. I just pulled up to your house. I'm here about your refrigerator.
Yes.
Right outside.
All right. Give me a moment.
All right.
Bye.
My man, Robert.
Hello?
Hello, is this Robert McDaniel?
It is.
My name's Doug. I am scheduled to come see you about a Maytag washer.
Yes, sir.
The reason why I'm calling is I've been in Tyrone all day, and you are my absolute last guy in Tyrone before I leave. I'm 4 minutes away from your house. Can I stop by?
Give me just a moment.
Okay. I'm just literally down the street from you right now.
Oh,
I'm on Joe Cowan Parkway and
Alice.
Dogwood Trail.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate it. She'll be there in 5 minutes, my friend.
All right.
Thank you. That way I ain't got to come back. He said, go. I got to turn around. And he's at 627 Sonoya Road. Close. I can't just, because I had to diagnose him. He got to order these shock absorbers, and he didn't give me a model number, so they're different tolerances, so I can't just come with anything. Bruh, come without my sign. Girl, you look just like a car. Oh, come on now. Keep going straight. You remind me of a dream. This motherfucker. He all over the place with this U-Haul. Give it to me now. Her. Last puppy. Just diagnose you and go ahead and move on. I'm ready for the day. Remind me of my Jeep. It's gonna be 6:27. $6.27. Robert? Oh, nasty. Y'all hear me? This is nasty motherfuckers. Alright, we going to Stockbridge. Last stop, baby. I wanna ride it, something like the sound. Girl, you look just like my car, something like my bank account. Something about your love. Right, we got our ride, my boys. Look right up the driveway. Let's listen to my boy Besson. He a motherfucker.
But I'll move on here to talk more about tax and certainly the Treasury's recent interagency agreement with the Department of Education to address the ongoing top costs to taxpayers associated with the Biden administration's student loan policies. Last year, I joined several colleagues in urging Treasury to rescind the waiver which prevented collection on defaulted student loans. So this agreement takes an important step toward restoring accountability and protecting taxpayers. I certainly appreciate your partnership in the effort. You know, the Working Families Tax Cut bill was very productive, certainly teed up by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from the first Trump term. And it's interesting, you know, in the meantime, we had a bipartisan bill where we had many of my colleagues, both sides of the aisle, vote for so many things from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And then when we even added more middle class advantages, whether it's Trump accounts, whether it's school choice, whether it's the tax relief for overtime, likewise for seniors, I mean, the list goes on. But because there was no chance that President Biden would sign that, they voted against it. So when there was a chance that President Biden could have signed a bill, now it didn't get through the Senate obviously, but when that it seemed to be the situation, they opposed it. So I just I get a little frustrated when we can have good discussions here in this room and legislate. I think it's important to note that there were so many inversions happening leading up to the Obama administration that even President Obama advocated for lowering the corporate tax rate. Now he advocated a rate that didn't have enough support here. President Trump came in, he advocated for a considerably lower rate, and we legislated basically right in the middle. And it proved very effective economically, proved effective for growing revenues and growing because the economy grows. So anyway, I'm excited about the Trump accounts because I think those are going to be consequential, especially teaming up with the federal scholarship tax credit. Appreciate my colleague Blake Moore working with me to make permanent the Trump accounts because I think they are going to be very much appreciated by a lot of folks. A few years down the road especially, but I think even in the near term as people start thinking more about their financial future. Now, a lot's been said about various things and certainly the president, but I know that there's been quite a bit of chatter from the other side of the aisle regarding the president's investments. I'm just wondering if you could set the record straight on this and explain how there have been mischaracterizations during the process and mischaracterizations of the law, perhaps.
I want to be very clear on this. President Trump's investment holdings are maintained exclusively in fully discretionary accounts managed by independent third-party institutions who have sole and exclusive authority over all investment decisions, including asset allocation, trading, rebalancing, and portfolio management. They receive no advance notice of trades, cannot alter or override the manager's strategies or models, and unlike Congress, this was intentionally designed to maintain a clear separation between President Trump and the independent third-party investment managers overseeing his account.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And let me just close by saying that the American people are wanting us to have good conversations, thoughtful conversations, reasonable conversations, and I think thoughtful and reasonable individuals know that what we did with our tax policy has been good. Thank you for your role in that, and I want us to work together for the betterment of our economy moving forward, just as the American people would expect us to do. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being with us today. You were here a year ago. You came before the committee and you closed your testimony by saying the president's bold leadership had laid the foundation for what you called a golden age economy. More recently, you said the economy could grow by at least 3.5% this year and that Americans would see a non-inflationary boom. Mr. Secretary, I've searched hard to find constituents in my district who believe that this economy is golden. In fact, many of them are struggling more today than they were the last time you were in front of this committee. Personal savings are shrinking, disposable income is down, and families are paying more and more for basic necessities. So I would like to ask you a couple of yes or no questions about this golden economy. Electricity bills are up 8.5%. Is that golden?
Sir, you can ask.
Yes or no?
You can ask
Yes
me a
or
question.
no?
You can't tell me how to answer it. So,
Okay, let me put it this way, Mr. Secretary, because you're obviously not here to answer questions.
here to
You're
answer
It's my
questions.
time, Mr. Secretary. It's my time.
Okay.
Health insurance costs are up 26%. That's not golden. Child care costs are up 9%. That's not golden. Gas prices are up nearly 50%. That's not golden. Grocery prices are still straining family budgets. That's not golden. Mr. Secretary, working families don't feel like they're living through a golden age. And while H.R. 1 may have delivered modest tax cuts for some Americans, many families are seeing those savings wiped out by higher costs everywhere they shop. Is that what this administration considers a golden age? And it's rhetorical, so you don't even have to try and talk over me. Secretary, Mr. Secretary, what should I tell my constituents when they ask about these costs? Farmers who are being hit by high costs of fuel and fertilizers, who can't get their product to market because of the war in Iran. Tell them it's golden?
Nope. Tell them to
you should tell them that we've had 2.6% economic growth since President Trump took office, despite the Democratic.
These farmers are
despite the
pretty smart,
Democratic-
Mr. Secretary.
Well, no, people in California, one person
Reclaiming my time.
One person
These
leaves
farmers are
California
pretty smart,
every 2
Mr.
minutes,
Secretary,
Congressman.
and they're not going
They
to
leave-
fall for
they
that
leave
line.
California.
I understand your unwillingness to
One person every
testify
2
and
minutes.
answer questions
I'm happy
about
to.
details regarding the IRS settlement with the Trump administration due to ongoing litigation. But at the end of the day, your department, the Treasury Department, and specifically the IRS, is going to have to carry out its demands. And let me be very specific about what those demands are. The settlement says the IRS is prevented from raising any and all claims against the president with respect to any tax return filed before May 19th, 2026. So, Mr. Secretary, as the head of the Treasury Department, you will be in charge of carrying out the demands of this settlement. So let me present a real, true scenario for you. If on May 18th, President Trump files an amendment to his 2024 federal tax return, and the amendment says, quote, I'm owed an extra $10 billion. That's the amount that he sued the IRS, that I forgot to claim on my tax return. Is it your opinion that the settlement agreement signed by Todd
answer
Blanche,
hypotheticals.
the acting attorney general and President Trump's former personal attorney, would require you to pay President Trump $1 billion, no questions asked?
We will follow Justice Department.
Okay, you won't answer that either. Do you think this is something that the American people should know? How can you sit here and not provide any answers to the American people? Because it is astonishing to me that the president didn't know about this deal before it was signed. Of course he knew about it. He directed it. So why not cash out on his get out of jail free card? As I read it, he can absolutely file an amendment to his tax return and claim a giant tax refund. And you have to sit there and watch while he robs the Treasury, and more important, while he robs the American people blind.
Yeah.
That's as unacceptable as you refusing to answer questions posed to you by the members of this committee. I yield back.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thanks for being here. As you know, the meetings will continue until morale improves. This is the beginning of the Charles Dickens.
Given that the Democratic House has a 17% approval rate, now I see why.
No, this is the opening of a Charles Dickens novel, is it not? So, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief, it was the epic of incredulity. It was a season of light, it was a season of darkness, it was a spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. How well that describes what we're going through. I will remind my friends on the other side that we had double-digit inflation in the prior administration. The president inherited one of the worst situations he could possibly. The cost of gasoline, by the way, in June of 2022 was the average was $5.16 a gallon. As of June 4th, it's now $4.51 a gallon. So facts are a funny thing. Use the ones that actually are true, or bend them to anything you want. What I really want to talk to you about, though, is part of what we did when we first did Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was something called opportunity zones. And I'm going to invite you to come to Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie, Pennsylvania was at one time a thriving city that fell on very, very hard times. But when we did the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act with the opportunity zones, this encouraged private investment, not taxpayer dollars, but private investment going into areas where the government would have wasted its money, and does oftentimes, but say to private investors, you know what? Using the tax code, we're going to give you an opportunity to invest in something, while other people would usually walk away from it. I got to tell you, in Erie, under the leadership of key stakeholders and local leaders such as the Erie Downtown Development Corporation and the strategy of Erie Refocus Plan, the city committed itself to a goal of revitalizing its downtown waterfront while building on its industrial areas. Using opportunity zones as a catalyst, Erie has leveraged more than $40 million in private investment. This investment created 110 new residential units, revitalized more than 100,000 square feet of commercial space, restored 8 historic properties, and brought the grocery store to a neighborhood previously designated as a food desert. One of the things I wanted to talk about, because under this new plan, we decided, hey, you know what? We did some great jobs when it came to cities. Let's look at rural areas. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you would, please come to Erie, where you can see how these things work in living color to real people in real time. How we're revitalizing a community. The job you've done is incredible, by the way. The only thing I question, what keeps you getting up in the morning and come into things like this when you know all that work that you do, all that time that you spend, all your staff works to make it better for the American people? The hell with this idea of it being a Republican idea or a Democrat idea. Why don't we just look like what's best for America?
Well, the representative, first of all, I've heard that Erie is a poster child in a great way for opportunity zones. So I look forward to coming and visit, and I look forward to visiting the rural areas in your district. And also, as I said earlier, many representatives, senators from the other side of the aisle have called me to ask for guidance on opportunity zones. I pointed out that they voted against them, but that is why I come in, to help the American people. We can overcome partisan differences, that they voted against them. It is in statute now, and we will make it work for all the American people.
You know what, and I appreciate that, so we'll get with you that, because I have 2 friends in the Senate right now that represent Pennsylvania. They are sometimes would have been described as polar opposites. They're not. So between Senator Fetterman and Senator McCormick, we have 2 people in the Senate now working together to do the best things that they can do for the state they represent and the nation that they work for. I think if we could twist things around, and unfortunately elections get in the way of us doing things that are actually beneficial to the American people, we tend to work on a party spectrum rather than the people we represent. As I said, I represent 750,000 people. None of them are, it's not an all red, it's not all blue, and in fact what discourages me is too many of our people who live in the area no longer have faith, and they don't even register to vote. But please, we're going to invite you, we're going to invite Senator Fetterman, Senator McCormick. We will get people there to sit down with you. There is such a wealth of opportunity taking place right now. The figures don't lie. Sometimes the liars can figure, but figures don't lie. Thank you for doing what you're doing in your private life, to walk away from that, to walk into this. When they first described it as a swamp, they had no idea how deep the swamp has become. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for your dedication to the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Larson.
Thank you, and thank you, Secretary, for joining us here today. It's always kind of unusual when you start a hearing and are instructed what you can say or can't say in an open and free democracy. But having said that, you mentioned in your testimony core inflation a couple of times. What's the difference between core inflation and inflation?
Many people believe, or it is in general, energy prices and food prices, which are much more fast moving. And I would say that energy prices will roll down when this Iran conflict ends.
So is gasoline considered part of core inflation?
Yes, sir.
It is. So those remarks, core inflation reflects gasoline prices.
Core inflation, it reflects the underlying trend in inflation and whether that inflation has become endemic to the system as it did during President Biden.
Has the war in Iran had anything to do with core inflation?
Yes.
Sir?
Does the war in Iran have anything to do with core inflation? Or you can't answer that, or either, or are we precluded from asking that?
Well, I'm not sure what the question is.
Let me make it as simple as I can. Does the war in Iran, are you with me? Does the war in Iran
thus far
have witnessed the rise in gas prices as it caused?
Well, again, that is the regular inflation, and gas prices have gone up, which I believe will be temporary.
Gas prices have gone up, but you believe they're temporary.
Core inflation, it has dropped 0.5% since President Trump came to office.
Geez, when I'm home in my district, I'm going to just tell those people, geez, you know what? You missed this whole thing. Don't you understand core inflation? You guys are better off. I mean, these gas prices, I don't know what you people are thinking out there. For God's sake, you should be doing cartwheels in the street over the price of gas. So what is the administration's plan to lower gas prices?
We've taken the many.
Are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We have moved to.
Are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We would like to.
Are you able to answer that, or is that not easy?
Well, if I'm not interrupted, I can, Congressman.
Well, I'm waiting for your answer.
We have asked Congress to move to eliminate the gas tax. That is done through statute.
You have moved that. So you're in favor of eliminating the gas tax.
We have asked for that.
So we can join bipartisanly today because you're in favor to eliminate the gas tax.
Again, the White House has asked for it, sir.
They have? Why isn't it before the committee for a vote?
Tell me.
I don't run the agenda.
Well, it's good to hear that we're in favor of something that we can work on bipartisanly that will help relieve people who need it the most. Forgive me, but people in my district aren't doing cartwheels over this economy. They haven't seen the impact that you claim that they're all receiving. People hear a lot of rhetoric, etc., but that doesn't pay their grocery bills. That doesn't pay their heating costs. That doesn't put fuel in their tanks. That doesn't help them get through the day-to-day grind of their lives. And so coming here and filling us with platitude and telling us how grateful we should be to the Trump administration for everything that it's done,
Congressman,
is this war responsible for any of this?
Congressman, food at home is up 2.5% since President Trump took office.
Are we at war currently?
Which is twice.
Are we
it's
at
up
war
twice that much
currently?
every year under the Biden administration.
Are we at war currently?
That the conflict has been halted.
The conflict has been halted. So we're not at war. So our military is not involved. We're not at war.
Again, if you would like for me to call the Secretary of War, I can ask. I'm the Secretary.
So as part of the administration and as part of this, we're not at war. How in God's name, if we can't answer any questions at all, and I don't know, maybe there were some special orders where we're not allowed to these questions or not, we ought to make that clear. Are we at war or not? I'm asking as relation to the cost of going up for oil and gas. That hasn't risen. Has it risen because of the war?
It did rise because of the conflict, yes, sir.
The conflict. So that's what we call it. Our people go into battle and lose their lives.
Mr. Larson, your time has expired. Mr. Schweikert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just, Mr. Secretary, you were already heading there. As everyone here, I'm sure, knows, PCE, there's actually trimmed, which Kevin, new secretary, head of the Fed, prefers. There's actually 4 or 5 ways you do balancing on the calculations. So if any of you want joint economic action, we have a whole chart of how those calculations work.
Well, no, sir, those will be facts, and they're inconvenient. And food prices, food at home, has risen 2.5% since President Trump came into office. It averaged more than 5%. 5% under the Biden-Warren economy. And I've got a list here that President Trump posted, but no one wants to talk about it. Last year, all we heard was eggs. Eggs are down 90%. Avocados are down 19%.
Mr. Secretary, you will find...
Which is probably, avocado's probably more popular on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, you'll find we often choose whatever number works best for the social media posting we're going to do in an hour. So welcome to Congress. A conversation we've been having actually with some of your staff and some of the Ways and Means staff is something that often never comes up, but we're going to have to understand it and find a better way to document it. We calculate about 17% of the U.S. economy now is in the tax-exempt space. And within that space, those who receive the benefit of tax exemption, the basic concept is, here's the community good you're doing for not having to pay taxes. Okay? There's something you're an expert on, the 990 form that documents to the IRS, to Treasury, to Congress, what is that community benefit? I know your team has been working on this. I know some of the IRS team, we've been working on it. Is there a way to come up with a much more robust, universal form so we can understand, are these tax-exempt organizations meeting their societal obligation? And if they're not, we can help them meet that. But we don't have enough information today.
It's a great question, Congressman. And there are many tax-exempt organizations. A large part of the economy are hospitals and healthcare services. So we should look whether they are meeting the needs and are in fact nonprofits. Your question in terms of what is going on with these nonprofits, the IRS has issued guidance for Form 990 that nonprofits, just as banks must KYC, know your customer, we are telling the directors of these foundations, of these institutions, you must know your grantee. So KYG. If your grantee if the money is being used for violent activities, you as a trustee, as a fiduciary, are in trouble. If it is being used to take away people's civil rights, you are in trouble, and the nonprofit status is in jeopardy.
My team looks forward to continuing to work with Treasury on making that more robust, so we actually understand both those that are using nonprofit tax exempt as funnels to bad acts, but also are they meeting their community obligations? One that you're probably not going to get as a question from anyone else. We have a fixation of debt management. You know, we're responsible as policymakers. We're responsible for the debt, not the administration. We do make the policy. what can we do as members of Congress, Joint Economic Committee, Ways and Means Committee, to help you convince the markets, please buy a 10-year note. Please, we have some vision, the visibility to see where we're going. I do have some concerns of in the future where the entire world is binging on debt, that we have some stressed auctions. What do we do as a country to actually not have that happen to us?
Since President Trump came into office, the U.S. Treasury market has been the best performing developed market, but that is not assured. It is assured that the Treasury will have a regular and predictable issuance cadence. But what we must let the borrowers know, people who are buying Treasury bonds, whether it is U.S. households, the foreign central banks, and everyone else in between, that we are serious about getting our debt and deficit numbers under control.
That is perfect, Mr. Secretary. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. Secretary Vincent, as of April 18th, taxpayers received about 3.4 million delayed refund letters. Illinoisans received 110,000. Texans, Floridians, and New Yorkers each received over 200,000, and Californians received 400,000. Almost 3 months ago, on March 9th, Representative Sewell and I asked you for basic information to demonstrate that Americans are actually getting their delayed refunds. Last month, I requested a meeting with the appropriate staff at the IRS or Treasury for this information. It was not until this morning that I received a response from Treasury. And although the letter contains some high-level information, it is insufficient to reassure me that Americans are receiving their refunds quickly. For example, the information in this morning's letter is substantially outdated. Today's letter cited 2.2 million CP 553 e-notices when a separate document you sent me a few weeks ago cited 3.4 million notices as of April 18th. Also, the information in today's letter fails to convey the current number of unique taxpayers whose refunds were delayed. Nor does today's letter give a clear understanding of how quickly taxpayers are waiting on their delayed checks. So, Mr. Secretary, could you tell me when or before June 11th will you or your staff meet with Representative Sewell and me to walk us through the evidence that taxpayers with delayed refunds received the funds owed to them?
Microphone.
I have not seen the letter, but I will follow up on this. And the delays that you are talking about are for taxpayers who did not file electronically. We had about 98% of taxpayers file electronically. They received their refunds within 21 days. It sounds to me that out of the approximately 134 million tax returns that we received, that the April number would have been the amount, and we are at 2.2, so we are working through it, and much of that has to do with verification, lack of addresses, so we look forward to working with you on that, because we are committed
Well,
to
thank
people
you,
getting
thank
these
you very
large
much.
refunds
Well,
quickly.
let me just continue. Mr. Chairman, could you assist me to make sure that the American people receives the information, 3.4 million delayed notices, getting their refunds expeditiously? And also, I'd like to submit for the record a state-by-state breakout provided to me by the Internal Revenue Service, where 3.4 million taxpayers live and whose refunds were delayed as of April 18th.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Congressman, what was that number last year?
3.4 million.
No. I meant for the previous filing season and the year before that.
Well, I don't know the number for either one of those years, but let me move to my last question. I understand that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been indicted. And let me ask, is the Internal Revenue Service involved in that activity in any way?
Again, that's ongoing litigation, but that would have been done, as I read in, what I know is what I've read in the newspaper, and that was the Justice Department and the FBI.
And Internal Revenue is not urging or suggesting to any other entities that they may lose their tax exemption if they contribute to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Again, there's ongoing litigation, but that's driven by the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I give back.
Thank you, Mr. LaHood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome. Thank you for being here today. Thanks for your service. I want to touch on affordable housing. I think collectively, as we travel back to our districts, we continue to hear about the lack of affordable housing. And I would describe it as a rural, suburban, and urban problem. And last year, in the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, we included a number of provisions on affordable housing. And one of those was my bill that was included in there on the affordable housing tax credit. And as you're well aware, one of the most significant barriers to economic success in our communities is housing. And so in the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, we included the Affordable Housing Tax Credit, which includes a permanent 12% increase in the 9% allocation of LIHTC credits beginning this year. Independent analysis have estimated that this will lead to the development of more than 1.2 million more affordable homes nationwide over the next 10 years because of what we did. From your perspective and the Department of Treasury, what will the expansion of the affordable housing tax credits mean for working families struggling to afford housing?
The LIHTC provision specifically gives great predictability for investors and builders who want to go into the market, and I think we've already seen a pickup in those areas and with this program.
And Mr. Secretary, what do you see for, as we try to address this problem, other mechanisms within Department of Treasury or legislatively that we ought to be looking at?
Well, there are two housing bills, one in front of the House and one in front of the Senate, and that seem to be languishing.
I want to switch topics. I also, beyond being on the Ways and Means Committee, I serve on our Select Committee on China, which is a bipartisan committee focused on how do we win the strategic competition against the CCP. And I also serve on our Intelligence Committee. And I want to focus on 45X, and that's a provision in the tax code. And so last year in the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, we included the Foreign Entity of Concerns restrictions that pertain to curbing Chinese technology by manufacturers and mandating in that bill that they operate fully independent companies here with no reliance on Chinese entities. Despite these clear requirements, recent media reports indicate that many manufacturers continue to depend on the active support of Chinese engineers overseen by the CCP, security officers embedded in their U.S. facilities, undermining the objective of fully transferring operational knowledge of these technologies to U.S. companies. So, Mr. Secretary, what is Treasury doing to address and prevent Chinese penetration and involvement in these companies receiving the 45X tax credit?
So we are polling the companies. We are asking for verification that this is not happening. And whenever we receive a report, we investigate it, just as with CFIUS. CFIUS is self-reported, but when we discover transactions that we believe should have been reported, then we can go back and investigate those transactions.
And to your knowledge, have any of those investigations led to a fruitful prosecution or holding somebody accountable?
I can get back to you. I can have my staff get back to you, but I can tell you it has been very robust. And you would have seen that recently the FCC banned Chinese drones and routers, and with the connected auto mandate that electronic systems in American cars cannot be connected to Chinese entities.
Thank you. And I'll look forward to the follow-up with you and your team on this. This is something obviously we got to be heavily focused on. Lastly, in my remaining time, I just want to focus on digital service taxes as it relates to Canada. And maybe, obviously, we have concerns. We credit the administration for what you've been able to do on DSTs in Europe, but there's still some concerns with our Canadian friends. Can you comment on where we're at with that?
We are pushing, whether it's Europe, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Brazil, whether it's India, whether it is Canada, we are pushing back on these digital service taxes. We have the greatest technology and innovation ecosystem in the world, and they cannot take advantage of our companies and for their treasuries. It is they are very interesting. They are very ripe targets because they are profitable, they are well run, and they are in demand. But we cannot have this. And we, in every trade negotiation or every trade discussion with the Canadians, we bring this up.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yield back.
Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary, nice to have you back before our committee. Mr. Secretary, do you believe that all Americans should follow our tax laws?
Yes, Thomas.
Yes, good. So do I. And do you believe that for those Americans who break our tax laws, they should be audited or held accountable?
Well, I think there are two things there. An audit is not a result of breaking the law.
Yes or no? Simple question.
Well, no, it's not a simple question. It's
okay,
a two-part
then
question.
let me break it into two. Do you think they should?
If you're asking me,
please don't
should every
interrupt
taxpayer be
me.
audited?
Please answer that. I came here for answers. If you came here to waste time, I'm going to try to make sure you don't do that. Do you believe that people who lie on their tax returns should be audited?
Yes.
Okay, do you think that people who break our laws should be held accountable, our tax laws?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Very simple. Not a hard question. I'm glad we agree. So why is it that you are allowing President Trump to have complete immunity from being audited?
Again, I'm going to have to refer you to my previous statements. And
what was your previous statement, sir?
That I am unable to comment on any of the ongoing litigation.
Okay, can you name the ongoing case concerning President Trump's immunity from audit?
Sorry?
Can you name?
There are three cases.
Can you name them, please?
That are out there now, and I will be happy to get back to you on those, because again, I am not a lawyer.
Okay.
We are represented by the DOJ.
Great. You said that you can't because there's ongoing litigation. You'll give me the name of the ongoing litigation, because the only ongoing litigation that I know of is surrounding the $1.8 million slush fund, which has already been suspended. The fact is that the judge's ruling in the litigation that references that slush fund only addresses the anti-weaponization fund. It doesn't even address Trump's immunity from audit. So I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the judge's order in the Floyd versus Department of Justice case.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, Secretary, you said you're not an attorney, is that correct?
Mercifully.
Okay, well, I am, and I'm actually proud to be an attorney and know the laws, and I know how to read a judicial ruling. Furthermore, I know that since 1962, the Supreme Court has held that ongoing litigation does not prevent someone from testifying in a congressional hearing. So once again, I'm going to ask, why are you allowing President Trump and his family to have complete immunity from being audited?
Again, since you're a lawyer, you will understand that the U.S. Treasury and the IRS are represented by the Justice Department and the Acting Attorney General.
Yes, but I just mentioned a Supreme Court case that doesn't bar you from testifying. It's pretty clear to me, though, however, that you're not interested in answering questions. You're interested in arguing. Let me ask you this question. If President Biden amended a prior tax return and claimed that he was owed $1 billion, do you think that that would be audited, or should it be audited?
I'm not going to talk about any
because you're not really here to
I'm not
answer
gonna-
questions. I don't understand why you wouldn't audit that, and I don't understand why you wouldn't do the same for President Trump. So the ruling by the Justice Department,
do you have
excuse
specific
me,
knowledge of an audit of President Trump?
excuse me, it's my time.
You have specific
You're not here to
knowledge?
ask me questions. I'm here to ask you questions, and hopefully you're here to try to answer some of them. I'm curious to know who counts as Trump's family for the purposes of this immunity. Is it his children, his in-laws, his grandchildren, his second or third cousin, his great-great-grandchildren? Do you know the answer to that question, Mr. Secretary?
Again, I imagine you have the Justice Department phone number. I suggest you call them.
I'm not the one that runs the Department of the Treasury or that oversees what is happening with this immunity
And
that has been granted.
I'm not the one either. We follow follow the instructions of our lawyers, and we obey the law.
I hope that you're
Representative.
proud of your performance today, Mr. Secretary, because
well,
I think
hope you get some
I think
social
it's
media
pretty
clips.
safe to say that this is probably the most corrupt Treasury Department in our nation's history. And while
I am going
while
to
you
have to
dance around
take
questions
exception
to
with
protect
that. That is a
Trump,
slanderous
Americans
statement.
are suffering
That is a
in Trump's
slanderous
spiraling economy.
And
Inflation is now rising faster than average hourly wages.
Nah.
Gas prices are at an all-time high with the war in Iran. The cost of groceries has risen 3.2% over the past years, and prices on most goods have gone up because of Trump's tariffs. So I don't see how you could call that anything other than a failure of the most corrupt Treasury Department in history.
Your time has expired, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. My time has expired.
Secretary, I would love for you to respond to the accusations at your department, because I think you are due the opportunity for that.
The Congresswoman is slanderous. She has nothing but the unsubstantiated opinions, and I will not stand for that. There is nothing corrupt. We move at the highest levels, and just because she cannot get the answer she wants, if she would like to give me facts, she seems long on facts, short on facts, long on hot air, and I will not stand for that. Yeah, that's great.
Mr. Arrington is recognized.
Disgrace to make a remark like that.
Apparently, my colleagues had a sudden interest in the rule of law. I wonder if you asked her if she thought illegal immigrants should be detained and deported or caught and released, what the answer would be.
Well, and Congressman, and two, on inflation, I am not going to take firefighting advice from an arsonist.
Well, Mr. Secretary,
they torch the American people.
Mr. Secretary, maybe we ought to ask the question: should the sons of presidents who have multiple felony convictions, should they be held to the same standard of the American people in terms of crime and punishment? I wonder what the answer to that question would be. Let's not veer off. Apparently, wages and take-home pay aren't the only thing up in this country. Irony and hypocrisy is at an all-time high among my Democrat colleagues.
Now we see why someone leaves California every 2 minutes.
And that hypocrisy and irony starts with questions about price increases. It was the failed economic policies, one self-inflicted failed economic policy after the other, that created the worst inflation crisis in a half a century. Unbridled spending, if you add the hikes in interest rates, it would be about $12 trillion in deficit spending. Waiving work requirement for able-bodied adults on welfare, giving welfare and health care to illegal immigrants with the stroke of a pen by President Biden, layers of taxes on American competitiveness, layers of regulation on our small businesses. And you know what? We pay a premium right now, and we will temporarily, to defend our country, our children's future against a nuclear Iran, against a radical terrorist regime where we are under imminent threat. We will pay a premium at the pump. But gas prices were at a low two-decade low in terms of disposable income. We had gas prices before the conflict below $3. President Biden and 4 years of Democrat policies, gas prices went from $3.30 to $5. Now, we pay a premium for national security in times of conflict, and when we have imminent threat, we're trying to stave off another addition, nuclear power to the axis of evil. But the premium that the Democrat policies imposed on the American people was for what? A mandate for electric vehicles? What did we get for that premium? We got hundreds of billions of dollars. It was supposed to be 200 billion. 800 plus billions of dollars in giveaways, corporate subsidies for green energy. That's what the American people got. You know, they got higher energy prices, higher electric bills because of this radical climate agenda, the Green New Disaster. And that was the trade-off from my Democrat colleagues. So a little context to this conversation, I think, is helpful. The results, as you know, Mr. Secretary, were that the American people every year were losing $3,000 in wages, that they had a 21% regressive tax hike, 21%. They were losing $1,500 a year. I mean, are we in the golden age? Well, relative to the dark ages that we were thrust in by these failed policies, we are at the dawn of a golden age because wages are up, take-home pay is up, GDP, you said, is 2.6%. Well, that's a percent over what CBO said after we passed the big beautiful bill. And on an annual average basis in a budget window, that's $3 trillion to reducing the deficit, which may be why the deficit was reduced over 10% in the first 6 months of this fiscal year compared to last fiscal year, because we actually controlled discretionary spending and have saved up to now almost $500 billion. It's because Republicans actually cared about not frittering away tax dollars, and we rooted out waste, fraud, and abuse to a tune of over $1 trillion because we had quadruple revenue from having restructured World Trade Order and set a level playing field for our farmers and manufacturers. Because of all of that plus the growth, we have had a reduction in the deficit to GDP for the first time in almost a decade. I'm out of time. I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Don't listen to the noise.
No, I don't, sir. Look, they don't want to talk about how they voted to cut the child tax credit in half for 40 million people, voted for higher rates on low and middle income families, for $5 trillion tax hike. And if I were the Democrats, this side of the aisle, I would be terrified how many Americans applied for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, reduced taxes on Social Security, and deductibility of auto loans.
7.5 million no tax on tips, 29 million overtime, seniors 35 million.
Mr. Arrington, your time has expired.
Unbelievable. Keep up the good work, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Ms. Del Bene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. Last year, one of President Trump's first actions was to put his billionaire donor, Elon Musk, in charge of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. By the end of Musk's short but destructive tenure, DOGE had nearly quadrupled its original budget, lost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars in estimated interest and fee revenue, and paid 200,000 federal employees roughly $22 billion to stop working. DOGE was a massive failure. It turns out moving fast and breaking things and having no clue what the heck you're doing is not the most efficient way to govern. Unfortunately, DOGE's destruction wasn't limited to wasting taxpayer dollars and gutting the federal service. DOGE staffers also abused their position to gain access to taxpayers' sensitive private data. Mr. Secretary, on January 31st, 2025, you personally granted DOGE access to one of the Treasury Department's payment systems at the Bureau of the Fiscal Service. This database houses Americans' most sensitive data, including Social Security numbers and bank account information. Shortly after, my colleagues and I requested the GAO review DOGE's unprecedented access to this critical payment system. GAO completed that report last month, and I asked for unanimous consent to insert it in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. GAO's audit determined that a DOJ employee was inadvertently granted temporary access to create, modify, and delete data from the payment system. Mr. Secretary, you failed to impose basic safeguards that left millions of Americans' personal data vulnerable to unauthorized access and abuse. And so my question for you is, do you take responsibility for that? And what specific measures, if any, have you taken afterwards to protect the affected individual's data and rebuild confidence in your department's handling of sensitive information?
Again, would you care to look up what does inadvertent mean?
Have you taken? But you're in charge. You are responsible for this? Do you take responsibility for that? Do you take responsibility?
I will take responsibility.
Okay, and then
and again,
what has been done to make sure that?
This one, it was read only. They had no ability to edit.
What has happened to make sure that never happens again?
We have, just as we have at the IRS, we have tightened up all protocols on systems.
I guess that's not very specific, but the GAO also found that a DOJ staffer sent an unencrypted file containing USAID payment information and individuals' names to external DOJ personnel at the General Services Administration. Soon after, it was reported no disciplinary action was taken, despite the employee's failure to protect federal and non-federal employees' sensitive personal data and comply with security requirements. So again, Mr. Secretary, when employees who violate IT security rules are not held accountable, what does that message send to agents? Why don't you hold someone accountable?
Why are you bringing up USAID with me?
Because a DOJ staffer, GAO found that a DOJ had payment information. Payment information.
USAID, I do not oversee. I wear many hats in this administration. Not one.
And this is still, this is a file containing payment information. Are you not in charge also of the Treasury?
That has USAID. That has nothing to do with us.
But payment information has nothing to do with it.
Again, it was not sourced at the Treasury. Why are you bringing this up with me?
So GAO provided 6 recommendations to address identified weaknesses, including ensuring staff agree to comply with IT security rules and configuring systems to detect and prevent the transmission of unencrypted payment data. The report states that the fiscal service, again, the fiscal service, part of your agency agreed that 3 of the recommendations, or agreed with 3 of the recommendations, and did not state whether it agreed or disagreed with the other 3. So, Mr. Secretary, can you confirm Treasury's position? This is part of your purview, that Treasury's position on all 6 recommendations. And if you agree that they're warranted, please let us know. And if you disagree with the recommendations, please explain why.
Again, I don't have a copy of the recommendations in front of me. Your office did not share them in advance. We'd be happy to get back to you that we would obviously agree with the ones where we've already agreed.
So I hope that you understand that these are findings from the GAO about ensuring that information is protected. And again, we have seen access to taxpayer information leaks. What are you doing to address this? And are you taking responsibility? People don't have faith that the access has been given against the law.
Well, again, President Trump and his family and employees of the Trump Organization, 400,000 people had their tax returns stolen at the IRS.
You are in charge. What are you doing to prevent that? Americans' people's sensitive information has been leaked outside.
And your time has expired.
We have tightened the protocols. We have tightened access.
And you have said nothing specific of what you've done to
Ms.
ensure.
Ms. Delveni, your time has expired, and Mr. Estes is recognized.
Good to see you, Congresswoman.
So frustrating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Bessent, I think welcome for Ways and Means, and thank you for being here today. Mr. Secretary, I want to go back to last year when you were here before the committee and a conversation turned to discussions around OECD Pillar 2. There's much discussion about how Congress and the administration can work together to stop the taking of our tax authority by other nations and losing over $120 billion from the U.S. Treasury over the next 10 years. I'm proud to say we're in a much better spot than we were a year ago, thanks to a lot of the hard work by your Treasury folks and the effort we got done there. side-by-side agreement that you and your team negotiated is an important agreement that protects the American tax base from foreign countries looking to use our economy as an ATM for their own budgets. I know some members of this dais and their allies in the liberal press believe that this agreement gives successful American companies a free ride, but that's simply not true. The reality is President Trump and Republicans in Congress have done so much work on both the Working Families Tax Cuts and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to make the U.S. tax code more competitive and cement the U.S. as the best place to do business. Mr. Secretary, can you tell us a little bit about how corporate tax revenue has changed since we passed TCJA in 2017 and thanks to our more competitive tax code?
So it's a combination there, Congressman. We are seeing a pickup in corporate revenue, but importantly, where we are seeing the deductions is for the full expensing, both for equipment and structures, both factory structures and farm structures. So you can think of that when you see that deduction taken, you are actually creating the future tax revenues by building up the productive capacity of our country, and that increases productivity. So, on that side, and on the other side, Pillar 2, getting this sorted out and making sure that the tax revenue comes into the U.S. Treasury was essential. The U.S. first instituted the global minimum tax, and the Biden administration wanted to supplicate us to other countries and a internationalist tax regime that we were having none of.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Can you?
Hello?
Hello, Miss Wilkinson. This is Doug with Pulse.
Yes.
I'm here about your refrigerator. I'm in your driveway.
Oh, you came early.
Oh, I am? Wow, I thought I was late.
It's supposed to be between 1 and 3. Let me see if my husband is at home because I'm at work.
Oh, it's a van out here.
Is only one van?
Yeah.
Or is it two?
One.
Yeah, he not there. It's a gray van.
Let's see. What's the earliest he'll be back?
Let me see if I can reach him. Hold on 1 second for me, okay? Let me see if I can reach him right quick and see. Okay, hold on 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I hung up. I was trying to call him. He not answering the phone, but he knew you was supposed to be there between 1 and 3. That's the time that we had scheduled it for. Because only person in the house now is my son, but he's not 18.
Okay. So I guess I'll have to come back.
Yeah, because I need you to check my refrigerator and see. He know if he come back any earlier, and I know if you're on another call or something, I just give you a call back. But I'm trying to reach him now, but his phone going straight to voicemail.
Okay.
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 All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Mm.